What if a small, unassuming wooden box could completely ruin your life? This isn't just the plot of a horror movie. This is the story of the Dybbuk Box, a so-called cursed object that has terrified its owners for decades and become one of the most infamous paranormal artifacts in the world. It's a tale that blurs the lines between folklore, tragedy, and modern-day horror. So lock your doors, turn on the lights, and let's delve into the chilling history of the world's most haunted object. Before we even talk about the box itself, we need to understand where its name comes from. The term Dybbuk originates from Jewish folklore. It's not just any ghost. A Dybbuk is a malicious, dislocated spirit of a dead person that is believed to possess a living human. Think of it as a spiritual parasite clinging to a host and causing chaos and suffering. According to legend, these spirits are often souls who couldn't find peace in the afterlife due to unfinished business or past sins. The idea of a Dybbuk possession has been a source of fear in Jewish mysticism for centuries, a terrifying concept of losing control of your own body and mind. Now, let's connect this to the infamous box. The story of this particular Dybbuk box begins in the early 2000s, but its alleged origins go back much further. The box is said to be a simple wine cabinet, dating back to the 1920s in Spain, which was later brought to Poland. The legend claims it was owned by a Holocaust survivor named Unveil, who managed to escape to Spain after the war. According to her granddaughter, who sold the cabinet at an estate sale, Unveil had captured a Dybbuk inside the box through a ritual. She always warned her family never ever to open it. She took this secret to her grave, insisting the box be buried with her. However, her family, observing traditional Jewish burial customs, refused to bury the cabinet with her, and so it ended up at an estate sale in Oregon in 2001. And that is where our modern nightmare begins. Enter Kevin Mannis, an antiques dealer and writer. In September 2001, he attended an estate sale and was drawn to this small, unassuming wine cabinet. The seller, the granddaughter of the original owner, explained the box's strange history and her grandmother's stern warning. Mannis, intrigued, bought it anyway and took it back to his antique shop. He decided to refinish it and planned to give it to his mother as a gift. But that same day, strange things started to happen. While he was out, he got a frantic call from his shop assistant, who claimed the lights had gone out, the doors had locked on their own, and she heard horrifying sounds coming from the basement where the box was kept. When Mannis returned, he found the assistant in tears, and she quit on the spot, refusing to ever come back. Thinking it was just a strange coincidence, Mannis went ahead with his plan to give the box to his mother. The moment he presented it to her, she suffered a stroke. In the hospital, she was partially paralyzed and lost her ability to speak, but she managed to point at the box and spell out ITEKFT with tears in her eyes. Horrified, Mannis took the box back, but the curse seemed to follow him. He began suffering from terrifying, recurring nightmares of an old, malevolent hag. He wasn't the only one. Everyone who stayed at his house, including his brother, sister, and friends, all reported having the exact same nightmare. On top of that, he would often wake up with unexplained bruises and welts on his body. He started seeing shadow figures darting around his home and noticed a constant smell of cat urine and jasmine flowers, even though he had no cats and no flowers. The final straw for Mannis was when he discovered that all the light bulbs in his house had mysteriously burned out. Realizing the box was the source of this terror, he knew he had to get rid of it. But passing on a curse isn't so easy. Mannis listed the Dybbuk box on eBay, along with a detailed, chilling account of everything that had happened. He didn't want to sell it for profit. He wanted to warn people. His auction post read like a horror story, detailing the nightmares, the illnesses, and the strange phenomena. He wrote that the box contained 2 1920s pennies, a lock of blonde hair tied with cord, a lock of black-brown hair tied with cord, a small statue engraved with the Hebrew word shalom, a golden wine goblet, one dried rosebud, and a single candle holder with 4 octopus-shaped legs. Despite his dire warnings, the box was sold. The new owner, a college student named Iosif Nitsky, was fascinated by the story. But his fascination quickly turned to fear. Almost immediately, Nitsky and his roommates began experiencing their own paranormal nightmare. They complained of electrical malfunctions, a persistent infestation of insects in their apartment, and rapid, unexplainable hair loss. Their health seemed to deteriorate. Like Manas, they were plagued by nightmares and saw shadowy figures lurking in their apartment. Nitsky documented his experiences online, adding to the growing legend of the Dybbuk Box. The box's digital footprint was growing, and it was quickly becoming a piece of internet horror folklore. After just a few months of terror, Nitsky put the box back on eBay, desperate to be free of it. The box was then purchased by Jason Haxton, the director of a medical museum in Missouri. Haxton was initially a skeptic, interested in the box as a cultural artifact. He wanted to study the phenomenon and the psychology behind the story. However, his skepticism didn't last long. Soon after acquiring the box, he developed a strange skin condition, started coughing up blood, and experienced severe fatigue. He too began seeing shadow figures and had disturbing nightmares. Unlike the previous owners, Haxton didn't want to just pass the curse along. He sought help from rabbis and paranormal experts to understand what he was dealing with. They performed rituals in an attempt to contain the entity within the box. Haxton wrote a book about his experiences, titled The Dybbuk Box, which detailed the history and the terrifying events surrounding the object. This book caught the attention of Hollywood, and in 2012, the legend was immortalized on the big screen in the horror film The Possession, solidifying the Dybbuk Box's place in pop culture history. After the movie's release, the box's fame exploded. It became a must-have artifact for any serious paranormal collector. And in 2017, it found its current home with one of the most famous figures in the ghost hunting world, Zach Bagans, host of Ghost Adventures. Bagans purchased the box from Jason Haxton and made it the centerpiece of his haunted museum in Las Vegas, but according to Bagans, the curse was far from contained. The box is kept in a specially built room, and visitors are required to sign a waiver before viewing it. Why? Because the reports of terrifying experiences haven't stopped. Visitors have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, sudden sadness, and even physical symptoms like shortness of breath, sharp pains, and fainting spells when near the exhibit. Museum staff have reported seeing a dark, cloaked figure roaming the halls near the Dybbuk Box room after hours. Perhaps the most famous story connected to the box's time at the museum involves the rapper Post Malone. In 2018, he visited the museum and, according to Zach Bagans, playfully provoked the artifact, touching it despite the warnings. What followed was a string of terrifyingly close calls for the musician. Just weeks later, the private jet he was on had to make an emergency landing after 2 of its tires blew out on takeoff. Then, he was involved in a serious car crash. And shortly after that, his old home was targeted by armed robbers. Fans and paranormal enthusiasts were quick to connect this string of bad luck directly to his encounter with the Dybbuk Box. Coincidence? Maybe. But for believers, it was undeniable proof of the box's malevolent power. Of course, with any story this wild, there are plenty of skeptics. Critics argue that the entire legend is a brilliant piece of marketing, a creepypasta that got out of hand. They point out that the term Dybbuk Box doesn't actually exist in Jewish folklore. It was a term seemingly coined by Kevin Manis himself. Skeptics suggest that it is just an old wine cabinet and that the power of suggestion is responsible for the reported experiences. Once you're told a box is cursed, your mind starts looking for evidence to confirm it. Every strange noise, every nightmare, every bit of bad luck gets attributed to the box. In 2021, Kevin Mannis himself even seemed to admit that he had fabricated parts of the story to make it more compelling, though he still insists that strange things did happen. But for the believers, the skepticism doesn't add up. How do you explain the sheer volume of consistent, terrifying experiences reported by unrelated people over 2 decades? From Kevin Mannis to Jason Haxton to the countless museum visitors, the stories share striking similarities. The nightmares, the shadow figures, the sudden illnesses. Can it all be chalked up to mass hysteria or the power of suggestion? For those who have come into contact with it, the answer is a firm no. They believe the object is a vessel for something ancient, angry, and incredibly dangerous. So, what do you think? Is the Dybbuk Box an elaborate hoax? A brilliant campfire story for the internet age that took on a life of its own? Or is it truly a cursed object, a prison for a malicious spirit that brings misfortune to all who cross its path? Is it just a wooden box, or is it a gateway to something we can't possibly understand? The answer might depend on how much you're willing to believe and how close you dare to get to it yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the paranormal, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world's greatest mysteries. Stay curious and stay safe.